Sending requests to the server using POST method. As we saw in our previous tutorial, we can send requests to the server using GET or POST methods. Usually we use GET method to request the server, but in some cases we prefer POST methods. This could be for several reasons. Say for example, POST method offers more security than GET method. So it is a must to know how to send requests to the server using the POST method. Let's see how to do that. This is a sample code to show how to send requests to the server using GET method. Now, here we are going to make some slight modifications, so POST method will be used to send requests. The first modification will be quite obvious, yes, since we are going to use the POST method. Just change the method name GET to POST. Now we see here in GET method we will send the parameters along with the URL, but in POST method we will just use the URL as second argument, and we will send the parameters later. So take out these things. Now to send these POST requests we must include some HTTP headers. Let's add them here. These lines just say that the data sent is in the format of a form submission, and here we are just passing the length of the parameter we are sending. Fine. Now we need to send the parameters, don't we? Yes. Usually in GET method the parameter of this send will be null, but in POST method the data to be sent will be passed as an argument of this send function. So let's pass the arguments, which we would like to send to the server. Here completes our example. Working with this POST method is a bit harder than working with GET method, isn't it? Yes, but we use this POST method in rare occasions, so it will not be too much to worry about. Monitor for the server response. In our previous tutorial, we learned how to request a web page from the server, didn't we? Well, but before we think about sending the data to the server, we must first write the function to handle the response that's sent back from the server. So let's discuss it briefly in this tutorial. The XML HTTP request object has one special property called onReadyStateChange, which is used to store the function that processes the response that returned back from the server. Like this, our function which is going to handle the response that's sent back from the server. This req is the XML HTTP request object, and see here we have used its onReadyStateChange property. As the name implies, every time when the ready state changes, this function gets executed. But what is this ready state and what does it mean? Well, it's again a property of XML HTTP request object, where the state of the server response is stored. The server response has different states like processing, downloading, and completed. So this function will get executed whenever this ready state property changes. Am I clear? Well, now let's see what this function should do. First, this function needs to check the status of the request. If the state has the value 4, then it means that the full server response is received and it's okay for us to continue processing it. So, how will this function look like now? Just look here. Cool, isn't it? Well, as discussed before, this ready state has 5 different values for different states. Let's have a look at it. These are the different values, and you can see that each of these values represent different states of the server response. So this function will act depending upon these values. Have you got it? Good. And we do have one more thing to check. What is that? Any guesses? No problem if not. It's the status code of the HTTP server response. Here we will be looking for the status code of 200, which simply means OK. So, with the status code of 200 and ready state of 4, we are ready to process the server's data. That is, we can do whatever we wish to do with that server data, which we retrieved from the server. But before that, we should know how to retrieve the data that comes from the server. Yes, let's see how to do that in our next tutorial. Get and use the response on your web page. So up until now, we have seen how to monitor the server responses. Now just consider that the request was completely processed and the server gave the normal response. What should we do next? Yes, now it's our job to handle the data, which the server sent back to us. We can retrieve the server's response in two ways, either using response text property or by using response XML property, where this response text will return the server's response as a string of text, but this response XML will return the response as an XML document object. First, let's see what response text is, okay? Good. The data that's sent back by the server is conveniently stored in the response text property of XML HTTP request object. But the details about the text in the response text property is left intentionally vague. This allows the server to set this text to virtually anything. Say, for example, one script may return comma-separated values, another return pipe separated value, and so on. It's all up to the server. Okay, now just have a look at this example. Here, first the response text is pulled out and split on the pipe symbol using JavaScript split method. The resulting array of values is dropped into this variable response, and here we have assigned its first value to the field with an ID of order. That's all very simple, isn't it? Good. As I said earlier, we can also handle the server response using response XML property of XML HTTP request object. This property contains an XML response in the event that the server chooses to respond with XML. Dealing with this XML response is a totally different when compared to dealing with plain text, because it involves parsing, the document object model, and several other things. Well, we will discuss more about this XML in our upcoming tutorials, so let's try to write our first Ajax script in our next tutorial. My first Ajax script. From our previous tutorials, we learnt the complete basics of Ajax, like how to create the object, how to make a request, how to handle the response, and so on. So I hope all those tutorials have been helpful and have given you a full-fledged knowledge about Ajax. Now, let's implement all the concepts that we've learned so far in one simple example, shall we? Okay, let's go. Here we are going to use Notepad as our text editor, and we all know where it would be located in our OS, right? That means operating system. I'm sure you knew that, but I was just checking. Good. So, let's open up our Notepad and paste our script. Well, before getting into our script, let's see what we are intending to do here, shall we? In our JavaScript, we will request an HTML document, test.html, which contains the text, "This is a test message," and then we'll alert the contents of the test.html file. Fine. Now look at this. As soon as the user clicks this link, this function, makeRequest, gets called, and here we are passing the file name test.html as its parameter. Let's see what we are doing in this function. Can you guess what we are doing in this part of code? Yes, creating an HTTP request object, REQ. This line is to monitor the server response, so if it encounters any change in ready state, then it calls this function alert contents, and the object has been passed as its parameter. These two lines make a request to the server. Here we are requesting the page test.html, so we passed it here. This alert contents function is used to process the response which we received from the server. So first it checks whether the request is complete, then here it checks the status code of the request. If both these conditions get satisfied, then it will alert the text using this response text property. Otherwise, it alerts this message and comes out. So I hope you are now clear with the script now. Let's see how to save and run this file in our next tutorial. Executing my first Ajax script. We successfully wrote our first Ajax script in our previous tutorial, and I hope you are now clear with the script, right? Well, now let's see how to save and run the script. Go to the File menu and select Save. Before saving, keep it in mind that all our Ajax files should be saved in "W" folder. That folder is present in the installed path of the WAMP server. Since we have selected the default drive, our WAMP would be in C drive. Now select this WAMP folder. See, here is our "W" folder. Here is where we are going to save our file. So let's name our file as example.html. Everything is set here, right? Yes. But before you click the Save button, change this Save As Type option to All Files. So now hit Save. Now we have successfully saved our file. What's next? Should we execute this file? Yes, we should. But before executing the script, we should start our server. To start the WAMP server, click the WAMP server icon. Now you can see some list of options here, right? Yes. In this list, select Start All Services to activate all the services present in the WAMP server. So now our server is triggered on. Let's execute this file. Open the web browser and type http://localhost/, and then type our file name in the address bar. So in this case, type http://localhost/example.html, and now click Enter to execute. See here the link. Now let's click this link. Yeah, it's working. It's so simple, isn't it? Hope I've made this session interesting. Now let's move on to our next tutorial.